3 losses on the bounce. I have to say it again, 3 losses on the bounce for Liverpool. I know it sounds absolutely crazy that I'm even saying this, but you know, it's actually come to a point where I have to actually make a video about it. So obviously, as even as a Liverpool fan myself, I've been hearing so much stuff being swirled around. Is it the tactics? Is it words? Is it Salah? But Salah can't do this. Maybe Salah's washed. But you're looking at the centre backs. They're not doing the centre mids. It's a mess, absolutely mess. So I'm gonna be honest. As a Liverpool fan, we're gonna look at this and we're gonna dissect it bit by bit. We're gonna get right into the grit and actually see what's actually the problem. Is it the tactics? Is it the morale? Is it Slot himself? Is he playing some players? Should he be playing Chiesa, etc.? So, one thing I want to preface is that I'm not a tactico. I don't have any coaching license. I'm not a professional, a football manager. I don't do all this stuff, okay? But I'm take everything sort of at face value, you know? Stuff that the surface level football fan would know. Stuff that they would find quite, you know, easy when they're watching the game. They'll typically see it. But, as again, I'm not a tactico, so I'll just make myself very clear at that. But obviously, it's not good at all. It's not looking good at all. Obviously, if you can see, we're looking at the Galatasaray game and the left and Chelsea game on the right, and there's actually something that you can easily see. Is that it's not that we're being toothless. We've seen this before that. Well, we've seen that Klopp side, especially the 22-23 one. We had a problem with our scoring. I'm pretty sure the whole month of December we didn't score. Was it January? One of them. It was the goal was a goal of the month. So it's not like how we had this problem where our whole front line just wasn't firing, where they were just struggling to get the ball. I feel like like a glass half full, I'll call it, because partially we're actually getting these chances and we're actually getting it well, but it seems like we're just very insecure. We're playing sort of a basketball game. That's why we sort of get these chances. It's not by pure design, somewhat design. And I'll be honest to you, I don't think stats as a whole gives the whole story about it. We've obviously seen that we had a game in Crystal Palace and we had a game at Arsenal, and I think Crystal Palace, Everton, and Atletico Madrid were actually the 3 standouts. And we actually see where in the first half specifically, we saw a little bit glimpse in the second half where it died out a bit. But the first half we were absolutely dominant. When we talk about Atletico Madrid, the way we were popping the ball, obviously the first goal was a bit lucky, but that Salah goal was so beautifully constructed. The Ekitike and the Gravenberch goals obviously scored a banger, but in fairness, we worked those goals very well back to front. And these are against 3 teams who, you know, like to sit quite deep, and we actually got out very early. And I feel like in the Bournemouth game, the Arsenal game, Newcastle game, that was the concern, that we didn't get out of our cages very early enough. So we were actually just chasing the game a lot, or we were just waiting for the right game state to come around. So we were sort of mucking about, I'd say. But you'll see here that we're not really particularly playing great at the start. We're not getting out very quickly. Obviously, you see that it's actually focused. This is the whole game, by the way. I didn't do half by half stats because I feel like it distorts it. Because the Galatasaray game, I feel like generally, I feel like the start that we had sort of made the atmosphere, sort of made them, you know, get that confidence. You know, maybe we're a bit nervy, we lose the ball, we take extra touch, etc. So I find that a bit like contradictory. When people say that, oh, Liverpool are toothless, Liverpool, they struggle to have composure. I feel like we were composed at times, but it's the wrong time. Wrong time as in that we should have been composed like 15-20 minutes ago, so it's a bit silly. In fact, I had a very good ponder about this because he actually dissects our resting shape, and I feel like that's very, very important for a team, especially a team where, you know, you have to be so versatile. Some teams, when they actually go to the top, we actually see a lot of resting issue problems. I don't know if you remember Arsenal when they had that 22-23 title run, they were absolutely phenomenal. When we're talking about coming from the back to the front, they can build up superbly. You know, you had Xhaka, who was absolutely industrious in that field. You had Odegaard, the Maverick, and you had Saka. And even though these players, we look at now with hindsight, oh, Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, Saka, these players are not good, but these players, they were fresh, they were kicking it about. These players, they had absolutely sky high confidence, and that's what actually enabled them to do it. But we're playing with a front three, and this front three, despite the money spent, Gakpo, he isn't on an awful lot of confidence. He did start the season quite well, if I remember, but you know, the past 4 games, he's very scissored out. He scissored out a lot. Maybe it's that the competition, maybe that's the scrutiny, or maybe that's just, you know, we're gonna get into later about Kirkes, but Ekitike is probably the only person that I see playing with his confidence. I think he's that type of player, you know. I'll say that ballsy, that, you know, not arrogant, but that person that has lots of ego in a good way. Like the ego in the way where they actually present themselves very positively. So, you got 2 sides of the coin. And I don't particularly like that because, you know, we had someone who's so industrious in Salah. He's not playing particularly great, but we'll get to that later. But if we're going to look very specifically, we see Badishile, I believe, is on the ball. We always love to have that spare man. The spare man is probably so identifiable with Slot, and when he came, he was always talking about, if you guys remember, that spare man against Ipswich was very, very, I believe it was Szoboszlai or Gravenberch was used as that spare man after Konate got swapped with Konza. Talk about aerial duels, which we'll talk about that later, but you know, that spare man, obviously all managers, they have this sort of spare man thing, you know, but I feel like with us, it carries the burden a lot. So you do see that Gravenberch, he's pressing, we're pressing sort of man to man, but as you see, the press is not symmetrical at all. And the one person who actually draws it out, and that's why I think Enzo Maresca, I'll say this, will not say we were playing bad. Enzo Maresca coached this brilliantly. He used sort of João Pedro and Enzo at times as, you know, those dummy players where they could just drag away those important players, or the players that will press very hard so they'll fall for the bait. So eventually, I'm pretty sure he played it to Caicedo, who had acres of space, and as we know, is a goal. McAllister also is not too tired gusto. Maybe, I mean, you could say I'm reaching, but you can see there's a lack of coordination definitely in the press. Maybe because they need to play more against each other. So I feel like, and we'll get into Salah also, but the way Salah, obviously you won't really see too much now, but he hasn't been high pressing. And I don't think Salah should be high pressing, by the way. He should conserve his energy, use his energies in the best times, because when he is absolutely lethal is when he's closest to the box. On the right hand side, not too wide out. At times he can be too wide out, you know. His assists, we saw that all last season. You know, we saw that Gakpo assist against Man City. We'll see that game later as an example, but I feel like Slot's got that utilization wrong, definitely. So that's definitely something to look out for. How, and I'll say what went wrong specifically. Ground duels and aerial duels, I feel like they're so overlooked by people. Or not, as I said at the start, I said that I made it clear that not everybody's a tactical, but I feel like this is something that's overslept on, sort of, because when you have these players who are absolutely ground eaters, or they take pride in actually winning their duels, they could be so detrimental to the other team. So we see right here, actually Cucurella is actually the main difference for Chelsea, and I feel like Cucurella may have just won them the game, because the way he kept Salah quiet by keeping tight to him, by also dragging them away from the press, because Salah didn't press too hard. So you know what we said? Salah's a press, I'll go as wide as I can. Rob Sanchez, I know he has some criticism, but his passing from the back, I know it's sometimes shaky, but he has a good dig on him, you know? So, and I feel like, you know, it's reflected. If we actually look down and we go to their challenges, and if you go to tackle percentage next to attack, you see that they have an 88.9%, and that's probably because, you know, Hato, Reece James, Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Garnacho, who actually tracked back quite well. He actually kept some pressure on us. He didn't really do the attacking part flawlessly, which I'm not saying he is because he's new to the system, but he actually did very well in terms of actually just utilising his pace, utilising his pressing well, and keeping us very off balanced. And alternatively, if we looked very carefully, we're looking at 2 sides of the coin. You see that Chelsea are absolutely dominant in their ground duels, and I feel like also Enzo Maresca, he really packed in that midfield, so they give Gravenberch McAllister the chance to even have a foothold. So it's the same. And what I looked at very carefully, I drew parallels from this game and the last game. Obviously, managers evolve, but Chelsea's team have changed somewhat. You still got the same, you know, base players, same players, etc., etc., etc. So I looked at Chelsea very carefully, and I actually saw that, if I don't have myself wrong, this is the right stats, obviously. We had a 63% challenge rate chance percentage, and they had a 44.4. Obviously, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if we're talking about a game, especially where both Chelsea's goal came straight after kickoff after the turnover, and I believe Salah's goal, Salah's assist to Curtis Jones, and the penalty that was won. These are all quick plays, so we win it back in the middle, get it quick, and that also just says how important the midfield battle is. So we actually see that, you know, players like Gareth McAllister, and I want to talk about McAllister very, very importantly, because I need to make myself very, very clear about Alexis McAllister, because lots of people have been getting it wrong, and lots of people have been saying stuff that just isn't true. Maybe McAllister's tired, maybe McAllister's this, etc. in it. So I'm gonna tell you very, very clearly what's happened to McAllister. I'm gonna be very frank, he isn't playing good. Obviously, we can really see that. Well, I actually think it's a mix of both. He does play a lot of games. I'm pretty sure he was played, I'll say majority games last season. Maybe we're touching 90-95%. Maybe the last couple of games he took that break. Maybe he had, I think he had a suspension against Fulham during December. But, you know, we have this game time, and he's obviously, we can see that he's a player that carries himself well. He's proud of his country. So if you tell him, hey boy, you need to take a break, take a relax, I don't think he'll do that, especially for his country. So that's one thing. He plays an awful lot. Argentina, he plays pretty much, I'm pretty sure Scaloni skins him dry with all those, you know, all those minutes, and South America's there's jet lag flights. So, like, and what I want to make myself very clear is about the pressing issue. So we've talked about how, you know, the Chelsea game was an example, and our finishing. So we really talk about those two, but I want to talk about the pressing. If we actually look very closely, the ball's been given to Nessie by the goalkeeper. So this already means that, you know, we weren't pressing that high to even begin with, and it's very interesting to see who's actually leading the press at this point. I'm sure that Hugo Ekitike got subbed off, and Chiesa is to the left. I think he's off camera, but we see the utilization of the spare man by Bournemouth. Obviously, that I believe Endo and Gomez, they're anticipating that ball out wide, but I find it so interesting the way we set up. You obviously see it's a free. We've always done this free. You saw the Chelsea one. If I, you know, replay it for you, if I can, yes. If I replay it for you, you can actually see that Caicedo is the spare man, and we're actually pressing in a free this time, which I find very interesting. Again, obviously this time you see it's more as a box press, but you can see the camera cuts out, but on the left is Gakpo, and they played it back from the free kick. So once again, it's a free. We're primarily seeing that, and also pay attention about the two closest midfielders of outside of that free. So usually you have the front three. Sometimes they tuck in as their midfield, so there's a 2-3. But I'm talking about the two midfielders, is Wirtz and Szoboszlai, and we usually do a man-to-man on the middle. This match, you can obviously, that slot was trying to go man-to-man with Iraola, but it's more of a flat formation, you know, 4-4-2 changed into 4-3-3, etc. So we do see that, but against other systems, we don't really see that too much. We tried to do that box midfield against Chelsea. You can obviously see why Gravenberch pressed high, but you see it didn't work. And I feel like this is the best performance you can ever use for attacking output. I know we scored 2 goals, but from defensively, from with the ball and the rest in possession, defensively, pressing, absolutely flawless this game. I used this game against City. It was the Etihad away last season where we won 2-0. And I feel like this is a beautiful thing to use. And maybe with players that we don't, obviously Isak's not to full fitness. Ekitike's pressing is good, but you know, it doesn't make sense to press with Ekitike, you know, primarily. And you got two players, by the way, Salah and Ekitike, that are probably not going to press for you 24/7. You got Gakpo, not 24/7, but, you know, to that scale that we've seen before, of the Nunes, of the Diaz, etc. We see this 4. And obviously you could talk about the press, which is astonishing, by the way. Is a masterpiece. The way I think he outcoached Pep in this game, definitely. Not much managers could say that. But you can see the man-to-man importance. I know out wide, Salah and Diaz, they're not as tight, but obviously Szoboszlai and Jones will tuck in. And at that, obviously we're lucky. We got international break, we'll catch our breath. I just want to say to the Liverpool fans, this is a message to the Liverpool fans, if you're watching, stop being negative. This is not the time. I've seen some very odd comments about Van Dijk, his post-match interview, all stuff about this and that. It's silly. And it was very disappointing. because I'm expecting, you know, Liverpool fans to become representations of the club, and they are. They are fans of the club. But I feel like it's ridiculous. We're getting to a ridiculous, very ridiculous point. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to really say. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Have a safe one, and you know, put down in the comments if you got any video ideas, anything you want to get off your chest. Anyways, I'm happy to read them, take my time with them, etc., etc. All that rubbish, you know what I say. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Have a good one, guys. Peace.